One of the strangest realizations happens when you become financially successful. The things that you used to spend years dreaming about are usually not the things that end up improving your life the most. And I experienced this firsthand. For years, I imagined being rich as finally being able to buy all the things that, always felt out of reach. The nicer car, the bigger house, the luxury items. But eventually, you realize something that most people never talk about. The hardest part about building wealth is not learning how to make money, which is hard in its own right? But what's not talked about enough, especially for those who have been, intense for several years, is learning how to use it. Here's what I mean. The personal finance space teaches us one lesson over and over again. Spend less, save more, and invest the rest. And that advice is obviously very important. It's probably one of the reasons that many people are able to create wealth in the first place. But there is a point where that question changes. Earlier on in our financial journey, the question is likely, how do I stop wasting money? Later on in the journey, however, the question becomes, how do I stop wasting my life? And that is the part that nobody prepares you for, because money is not the destination. Money is supposed to be the tool that gives you the ability to design your life intentionally. And after years of focusing on accumulating wealth, these are the upgrades that I firmly believe actually matter. Not things that make you look richer, the things that actually make your life better. Number one, giving. Now, I'm sure that I lost 60% of the viewers right here. But hey, if you're still here, that's, all that matters. The first thing that I believe you upgrade when you actually have money is something that most people would never put on a list like this, which is, giving. And I know that sounds strange because after years of, sacrificing and saying no to the things that you actually wanted, why would the first upgrade be something that actually reduces your net worth? Here's why. You'll eventually realize something very important about money. Money is not just a measurement of what you own, it's also a measurement of what you are capable of doing. Here's what I mean. When you have very little, money represents security. But when you have enough, money starts to become something a little bit more different. It becomes influence. It becomes the ability to solve problems. It also becomes the ability to change somebody else's situation. One of the biggest mindset shifts that I had with wealth is realizing that the best purchase you can make is sometimes not something for yourself. It's instead something for somebody else. Maybe it's supporting, a family member that's going through a difficult season, or supporting a cause that you actually believe in. Or maybe it's simply being the person who has the ability to say yes when someone else desperately needs help. And that right there is the best feeling, especially when you see someone who has basically just lost all hope and are trying everything to make ends meet, but they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then you come in and provide that lending hand. But here's the truth. Wealth doesn't create generosity. It just reveals it. Having more money doesn't necessarily make you a better person. It simply gives you a larger platform to be who you already were. Number two, personal trainer. The second upgrade here is your health, and more specifically, investing in people who help protect it. And this is where many people, including myself, misunderstood wealthy people's decisions. I look at someone paying for a personal trainer, and the first thing I used to think was, why would you spend money on something that you can learn online for free? And, technically I was right. You can find millions of free programs, workout programs. You can watch thousands of fitness videos, and you can learn exactly how many sets, reps, calories, and grams of protein that you need. But if information was the thing preventing people from getting in shape, nobody would struggle with fitness anymore. So that let me know right there that the problem is not information. The problem is execution. A personal trainer, and I'm not one, by the way, they're not valuable because they know how to make you tired in the gym. They're valuable because they help eliminate the biggest obstacle in almost every transformation, which is our own inconsistency. They create accountability, they create structure, and they make it harder for us to negotiate with ourselves when motivation eventually disappears. And this is something that a lot of wealthy people understand very well. The most valuable asset you have is not your money, it's your ability to experience your life. You can always earn more money, you can replace possessions, but your health determines how much enjoyment you actually get from everything that you worked so hard to build. And the irony is that many people spend decades building wealth while neglecting the body that has to carry them throughout that wealth. Look, at some point, protecting your health becomes one of the smartest financial decisions that you can actually make. Number 3, meal service. The third upgrade is food. And I used to be the biggest opposer of this because, it's just much cheaper and healthier to cook for yourself. But I started to change my perspective on this, and probably not for the reason that most people think. The reason is because I started to understand the hidden cost of constant decision making. Most people, including myself, think that preparing healthy meals is the difficult part. It's not. The difficult part is waking up every day and having to make the decision again and again. What am I eating today? Do I have the groceries? Do I have time? Should I just order something? Or should I just start tomorrow? Or in my case, start on Monday. One decision doesn't seem like much, but life is made of thousands of tiny decisions, and every decision takes a little bit of our attention. But what I eventually understood is that our daily energy is limited, and our brain is one of the most valuable resources that we actually have. This is why many people with money don't just buy things, they buy simplicity and remove unnecessary friction. So a meal service is not necessarily all about just, paying someone else to cook for you. It's about making the right decisions easier. And that principle applies far beyond food. The best purchases are often the ones that quietly make the person that you want to be easier to be. Number 4, dream car. So yeah, let's talk about the purchase that everyone expects, the dream car. And this is probably the most controversial one because financial advice usually gives you a very simple answer. Never buy expensive new cars. And honestly, that advice exists for a reason. A lot of people destroy their financial future trying to look successful before they actually are successful. They buy the car because they want identity. They want people to see the car and, assume something about them. But there's a completely different relationship with money when you buy something after achieving financial success. The car is no longer proof. It's just appreciation. So the difference between an irresponsible purchase and a rewarding purchase is usually not the item itself. It's the timing. A luxury car purchased too early can actually become a burden. But a dream car purchased after years of discipline can become a reminder. I'm talking about a reminder that sacrifices mattered. The reminder that, the long nights that you had and the difficult decisions and the delayed gratifications eventually created something. So the problem is not necessarily, not enjoying nice things. The problem is using nice things to pretend you have already arrived. Money should not just help you survive. It should obviously, eventually allow you to enjoy the life that you built. But the timing here is very important. Number 5, a dog. Now, this upgrade might be the least logical financially. A dog is what I'm talking about, not a cat, a dog. And by the way, I have nothing against cats, but they're just not a dog. And look, if you looked at this purely through a financial lens, it makes absolutely zero sense to get a dog. A dog costs money every month. There's food expenses, there's medical expenses, there's grooming expenses, and responsibilities that technically never really end. Your dog will never increase your income. It'll never contribute to your investment portfolio. But that's exactly why it's valuable, because not everything that's important in life can be measured by an ROI. Here's the thing. Your dog doesn't care about your job title or your accomplishments or how much money is in your bank account. It reminds you that life exists outside of achievements. It creates routines, it creates responsibilities, it creates moments of happiness that can't necessarily be optimized. And that is something interesting about wealth. When I was trying to build wealth, I often measured basically just anything and everything around me. Does this make me more money? Does this improve my career? And does this increase my productivity? But I eventually realized that a meaningful life can't be optimized like, a spreadsheet. Some things are valuable simply because they just make us happy. Now, after watching this, you might be thinking, well, that's easy to say if you already have money. So do I need to be, financially independent before I can start doing any of these things? Not at all. In fact, I think that would completely miss the point of this video. The point was never that you have to become rich, before you're allowed to enjoy your life. The point is that as your financial situation improves, these are the types of things that are worth spending money on instead of, chasing status or trying to impress other people. Some of these things don't require much money at all. You don't have to be wealthy to start practicing generosity. Even if it's just, a small percentage of what you earn, you're building that habit long before you have a larger income. And you don't need to hire a personal trainer forever either. 8 to 12 weeks can completely change the way you exercise for years afterwards. And even trying a meal service for a month or two can help you build routines that last long after you stop paying for it. The only thing on this list that I would still encourage you to delay is a dream car. Now, let that be the reward, not the motivation. Let it represent years of discipline instead of just years of debt. It'll mean a lot more when you've actually earned the freedom to enjoy it without sacrificing your future. And look, I think that's really the lesson behind the entire video. Wealth isn't about suddenly living a completely different life. It's about becoming more intentional with the money that you already have. Whether you're spending $20 or $20,000, the question is exactly the same. Does this genuinely make my life better, or am I just hoping it makes me look more successful? Look, because at the end, the people who build the happiest lives usually aren't the ones who spend the most money. They're the ones who spend their money on the things that actually matter.